Good morning, man. How you guys doing? I hope you're doing fantastic. Drop it in the comments. How are you? How's your day going? How's your morning going? Your Tuesday, and certainly maybe where you're from, so we know where you're listening from out there. And as always, make sure you click the button. It should be in the description above that says to allow Facebook to view your StreamYard comments, so that I know you are not uh, anonymous, like Mr. Joe Campert here, versus Mr. Facebook user here. So certainly appreciate it. It's always good to be here and hang out with you guys, man. I love the opportunity to do this show for you guys. And I've obviously been carrying the weight myself the last few days because I've had some things on my mind that I wanted to talk about, a few things that I wanted to train you guys on. I know normally we have some guests, and we do have some guests coming. So just stay tuned because we do have some guests coming. Where it's the lineup coming later this month. And then there's the link right there. Boom, StreamYard.com/Facebook. Click on that link, and then you can allow Facebook to view your StreamYard comments, and that makes you non-anonymous. Because, hey, it's more fun if I know who I'm talking to, right? So with all of that said, man, it's going to be a beautiful Tuesday trading. We're going to chat. As always, I got a little bit of news. I got a little bit of news for you today. A little shocker. And then I want to recap some of 8% Nation, basically some of my highlights. Right. I'm not going to have time to go through the entire conference, obviously, and every single speaker. So I'm going to hit a few of the highlight speakers that I really enjoyed and kind of what I got out of them. So that'll help you out. But real quick, just diving on, I'm sitting here thumbing through these comments, man. I appreciate all you guys. Thanks for tuning in. So number one, let's get it on real quick. Check this out. This is in the news, man. Cigna is back in the news again. Cigna can't seem to keep themselves out of the news. And I like Cigna. They've got a hell of a dental plan. They've got a great MAPD product in a lot of areas. And they're actually paying us on their PDP this year. They finally allow agents to sell it and get paid. But Cigna, as you can see here, is facing a federal class action lawsuit alleging that the company uses algorithms to deny payments in batches of hundreds of thousands at the time. So basically what it's saying, that the suit was filed in California's Eastern District on Monday, alleging violations of California law, which requires medical professionals to conduct thorough, fair, and objective reviews of insurance claims. Well, why does it matter? Well, Cigna lawsuit is part of a growing portfolio of AI claims, artificial intelligence claims, by Clarkson, a public advocacy law firm. So they've been going after OpenAI, they've been going after Google for a little bit, but now they're going after Cigna. And what they're saying is that Cigna's PXDX system, which is an abbreviation of procedure to diagnosis, was used to refuse around 300,000 pre-approved claims over a 2-month period, where the average time of each claim took about 1.2 seconds. So AI is taking a look at this claim that's coming through, and in an average time of 1.2 seconds, it's rejecting it. Now, in my mind, and I know AI certainly works smarter than the human brain, but that doesn't seem to be thorough, fair, and objective. And I think that's their major argument. And it says that the most astonishing claim is that a single Cigna medical director rejected 60,000 claims over a single month. So they're going after it. They don't feel like that's fair. They don't feel like it says right up here, thorough, fair, and objective. And Cigna's facing a lawsuit. And it wouldn't surprise me if we start to see other insurers, get brought up in the same manner, that they start coming under the gun with this lawsuit. So pretty interesting. I'm going to try to stay tuned on this, and I'll update you guys as I see this going. You can certainly check out this whole article. I will make sure that it is in the group that you guys can look at later. But moving right along, I wanted to talk to you guys about a couple of things that I promised. Number one, a little bit of a recap from 8% Nation, and then I'm going to refresh you guys on the 8 relationships that exist in insurance, why they matter, and more importantly, how they relate to the cash flow quadrant. I'm sure you guys have seen that, and we'll dive into that. But first and foremost, let's chat a little bit about 8% Nation. Man, if you were there at 8% Nation, put it in the comments below. And maybe even drop what your highlight was, something that you got out of it. But 8% Nation was a fantastic conference. I would say it was my favorite conference that I've been to so far, and I've been to 5 of them. And And I'm currently kind of battling why I thought it was my favorite. And I believe that I'm probably overwhelmed with the entire experience because of what we did here in the syndicate. So all of that combined makes it feel like it was the best experience for me. I really have a tough time beating if I trim it down to just the conference itself. I take away the whole syndicate experience, right? The syndicate suite, getting to hang out with all of you guys, the Airbnb, the private party, the private chef, like if I take away all of that stuff and I just look at the conference, I think last year was probably my favorite overall. Just the experience at the Hilton Anatole was beautiful. Getting to hear Ed Milet, which is one of my absolute favorite guys out there, and Jesse Itzler, like it's really hard to top those two guys. But this year was absolutely fantastic, not only from all the extra syndicate stuff that we got to do, but even just the conference itself. The first speaker that came out was Carlos Boozer. If you guys, anybody that wasn't there at the conference, you're like, who the hell is Carlos Boozer? Well, I don't know that he's a heavy drinker, but he was definitely one of the top power forwards in the NBA. Guy won the Duke National Championship while he was in college, playing alongside Christian Laettner and a bunch of other guys. And then he went on to play for the Utah Jazz, which never won a championship, but they definitely appeared in the playoffs many times. And he is definitely one of the top guys out there. His major message was that when adversity hits you, when adversity strikes and things get hard, you got to remember your goals and you got to take a minute to look at your goals. So one of the first messages, he talked about an interaction they had with Kobe where him and a bunch of the other guys were goofing around and they were coming back in Vegas from partying till 5 a.m. at night. And as they're coming into the hotel, they see Kobe Bryant waking up at 5 a.m. and headed to the gym. And they're like, yo, Kobe, let's go party. And he turns around and is like, I got goals. He's like, I got shit to do. I don't have time to fool around with you jokers that want to go party till 5 a.m. I got things that I have to do. And that was kind of the major message right there. Was number one, do you even have goals? Because if you don't, the second part of that message is virtually impossible for you. Because if you don't have any goals and when adversity strikes, well, you have nothing to look to get you through that adversity. And this message, as the leadoff message, kind of struck me really well. And this isn't a bragging moment, but I talked about this at the 8% Nation virtual conference 2 years ago. Cody invited me out to talk about, we were the major theme of that 8% virtual was breakthrough. Well, and in order for breakthrough to happen, there has to be an obstacle or an adversity that you're running into that you have to get through the breakthrough. And how do you get through that? Or how do you make that breakthrough? Well, you got to have goals. And that was what he talked about was when you're stuck in adversity, we tend to get granular and we get so narrowly focused on this obstacle or this adversity that's happening to us that we don't take time to kind of zoom out and look back at your goals, look back at where you're going, look at all the things that are going on around you. And if you do that, lift your head out of that adversity for a minute so you're not so narrowly focused on it, well, realize, number one, that the things in your life really aren't that bad. Number two, your goals can help you push through that adversity. They'll give you that power. They'll give you that motivation again so that you can punch through. Andy Elliott was also on day one, man. A little unusual speaker. It was really interesting to see him come out, and he had two of his people with him, so he wasn't alone on stage. And they stood there like they were bodyguards, but they weren't. They were just, one was one of his mentors that he works with, and the other was his wife. And that was really crazy. Like his entire message was just wake up. Like his real message was just wake up and stop dealing in all the garbage around you, feeding yourself garbage and not taking care of yourself. And that was at least what I got out of it, right? And he was pretty stern, like he was not cutting us any slack, and the dude just kind of lit it up. Next up was Brad Lee, and I'm going to actually skip Brad Lee for a moment because I got a ton out of Brad Lee, and you'll understand why in a second. Day two, highlight speaker was easily Eric Thomas. Man, that dude is phenomenal. I was actually fortunate that I bumped into him at the elevator just casually. That was early in the day, maybe right around lunchtime or a little before lunchtime, as I remember. So he wasn't going on stage until, I don't know if it was 4 o'clock or something like that. But I bumped to him coming out of the elevator and got to say hello to him. Super, super, super cool dude. Had no problem just like grabbing me and taking a quick photo with me. I posted on Facebook. You guys can see it. But he was phenomenal. Very powerful speaker, right? But not just not just powerful. Like his messages are phenomenal. Like he has stories that go along with him. He has things to support. But the big thing that I got from him was that you need to learn to be yourself and stand out. The person that you truly aspire to be is already inside you. And he said that you should be proud of who you are. And anytime you walk into a room, everybody should notice that you just walked in that room. And that you should be proud to stand up and be your authentic self and express yourself as fully as you can. So you don't walk into a room with your head down, your shoulders down, and kind of looking down and be like, oh, I'm here and all these other people are around me and I'm just, little old me. He said, no, you should walk in that room and be somebody. You should walk in that room and be somebody. And he gave a story about how his kids, when they enter rooms, people think they're movie stars. People think they are somebody of major stature because that's how they carry themselves. They carry themselves with stature, with some pride, right, and some enthusiasm. And I really appreciated that because that reminds us that, hey, who we are is powerful, and we need to be that person to the fullest. And when we enter a room, stand tall, stand proud, and be that person. Closing out the conference was Jen Gottlieb. I was not familiar with her at all. I had never heard of Jen Gottlieb. I had no clue who she was. She is an actress, and she had a lot of great things. And again, she kind of goes back to what Boozer talked about in regards to adversity, but the way she put it was a little different. And I might not have this written down perfectly, but she said that sometimes shit happens in order for shift to happen. And I took this one pretty hard and even experienced it a little bit later. But sometimes shit has to happen to you in order for a mind shift to happen for you. Now, I want you to think about how many times in your life that this has happened to you, because it's probably happened to you numerous times. It's happened to me numerous times. I can think of many times in my life that shit happened to me and it created a mind shift in how I thought. Sometimes that mind shift isn't always in the right direction. And I'm going to give you, and this is where going back to your goals and having a purpose is so important, because I can remember a long time ago, my first marriage ended in a very nasty divorce. And that was shit happening to me. But the mind shift that came with it was not a good mind shift. I went in the wrong direction because at that time in my life, I really didn't have any good goals. I was just kind of going through the motions. I was doing all right. I was writing insurance. I was making some money. But when that happened to me, it really took a lot out of me. And that is shit happening that still creates a mind shift, but unfortunately it created a negative shift. Why did it create a negative shift? Well, for a lot of the reasons these people are talking about here, right? Adversity was hitting me. I didn't have the goals that could power me through it. And it took me a while to get myself through that. There's been other times where shit has happened to me and a very positive shift has happened in my mindset. I thought that was a great message. And I'm sure that many of you out there can relate to that. You can think back at times in your life, wow, something happened to me that was very negative, or shit happened to me. And I was able to shift my mind to realize that, no, that's not the right way to think about this. That's not the right direction I need to go. Looking at my goals, I can push through and go somewhere. And then we had Brad Lee. I'm circling back. He actually closed out day one, but he was one of the speakers that, number one, surprised me. I didn't know a lot about Brad Lee. I knew Brad Lee, knew who he was. He runs the podcast Dropping Bombs. I've watched a few of his episodes. I've seen some of his content here or there. And I had trouble buying into it for a long time. I had trouble buying into him when I see him on some of his podcasts and some of the content, because I was getting the impression that he was just pushing out a fake persona. That I couldn't be more wrong. And I'll be the first to say it, that I was absolutely wrong. Because when that dude was on stage, he was extremely real. He was extremely authentic. And it certainly came through. And he ended with something called his Sacred Six, which I wrote down verbatim and want to talk about him. But number one, and you'll probably understand, if you saw my live I did yesterday on my page, you'll understand why I got the most out of his message. Was number one, and this is what he called his Sacred Six, right? Number one, you have to apologize and forgive. You got to apologize and forgive. You got to apologize that maybe you haven't been the person that you should be. Maybe you haven't been living up to your standards. Maybe you haven't been living up to your goals. Maybe you haven't been living up to your true potential. You have to apologize. And then you got to forgive yourself, have a little grace for yourself. Because he said you will never outperform your own self-image. So if you think of yourself as just say down here, well, you're never going to outperform that because that's your self-image. If you think of yourself up here, if your self-image is much higher, like Eric Thomas said, when you walk in that room to really stand out and be somebody and express yourself to your fullest, well, then you're going to perform at a higher level. So what you think of yourself is the highest that you're going to be able to ever perform at. You'll never outperform your self-image. And if you're thinking of yourself at a low time or a lower self-image, you need to apologize and forgive yourself. Number 2, he said you got to commit to doing what you say you'll do. Perry Lunsford talks about this. Perry Lunsford's been on our show, phenomenal producer out there up in Fort Worth. He says that all the time. He says that if you will commit to doing what you do, if you'll do what you say you'll do when you say you'll do it, you will beat everybody in this business, hands down. Nobody will be able to touch you. I'm going to say that again. If you do what you say you'll do when you say you'll do it, you'll outperform everybody in the industry, and in the industry, no problem. That's Perry Lunsford's message, but it goes right along with what Brad Lee is saying here. Commit to doing what you say you'll do. Improve your decision. And when you're faced with the decision, right? Every time we come up with a decision, we have generally 2 options. We can go this way or that way. So he says, when you're looking at those decisions, put this in your brain. Does this move me towards or away from my goal? So we'll keep something real simple here as an example. Let's say your goal is weight loss. Just throw that out there. Let's say your goal is weight loss. And you're sitting there looking at a chicken fried steak on the menu, which I absolutely love chicken fried steak, especially with some cream gravy. And they make some really good chicken fried steak down here in Austin, Texas, I promise you. So he says you're looking at the menu and you're looking at chicken fried steak. Does ordering and eating that chicken fried steak, does that move you towards your goal of weight loss or away from weight loss? And then as soon as you can answer that question properly, well, then obviously you know what the right decision is. You can improve your decision making, which allows you to commit to doing what you'll say you'll do. Next, he said to rack up wins. Set your goals. He talked about setting smaller goals so that you can achieve them, right? Cody always talks about thinking big, and I definitely believe in thinking big. Grant Cardone talks about this. Every one of your goals should have a 10x result. That way, if you miss it, you still achieve greatness. You still achieve much further than maybe you thought you could do. And Bradley was kind of counterintuitive on that. Now, I don't know that I necessarily agree with just setting short goals. I think you should set those 10x goals, those big goals, but you should combine them with small targets. What are the smaller stair steps that you can achieve on a daily basis that will help you get to that much larger 10x goal? I think that's probably what he truly meant. Not saying that think big goals isn't smart, but you need to have those small wins so that you can rack up wins. And what does that do? That builds confidence. And I love somebody's comment down here, brush your teeth. That's right. Set a goal to brush your teeth every day. It's probably already natural, but he used that as a very simple method, right? That, hey, if I'm one of those people that struggles with brushing my teeth every day for whatever reason, and that needs to be a goal. And then every time you achieve that little goal, then you have confidence, and now you can go on and achieve bigger goals. So really good stuff there. Next thing he said, that was number 3 out of the sacred 6. The next one, pardon me, because I'm looking at my phone here for some notes that I got. Number 4 is stop listening to the negative bitches. Just let that one stew for a second. Stop listening to the negativity, man. When I first got into sales in a much larger environment many years ago, we called them neg bags because they were just a bag full of negatives. Like, don't listen to the neg bags. They're always going to be out there telling you, get a real job. You can't do this. Why the hell are you going there? Right? I mean, there's people out there that are negative on 8% Nation. Just don't listen to them, man. When people tell you that you can't do something, don't listen to it. Right? Don't listen to the negativity. Shut it out. And that goes, you can take that further. What do we see on the news all the time? Is there any positivity in the news? Not a lick of it. I mean, every once in a while, there might be a puff piece about the fireman that saved the cat in the tree, but those are rare, and they're usually on the back page of the news. It's usually the tiniest blurb. But everybody loves to push all the negative energy, the negative things that are happening in the world out there. And if you sit there and that's all you do all day is look at that negativity, and I'm guilty of it. I don't watch the mainstream media news. I go onto YouTube and I still get my news, and I feel like I'm getting some good facts and a real perspective. But still, a lot of times, it's nothing but negativity. And then I'm walking away from that segment of sitting there watching that stuff, and I'm like, man, the world's jacked up. How are we ever going to make it? And all it does is it puts doubt in my mind. It puts fear in my mind, and that stagnates me from going after my goals. You got to turn that shit off. Let's just be honest. So stop listening to the negative bitches, period. Number 5, map out and visualize everything you want in life. Map out and visualize everything that you want in life and get specific about where you're going. This last one was read every day, even if it's just a few pages. Read something every day, even if it's just a few pages. And he expanded on this and he said, if you want to change what you're getting, if you want to change the results, if you want to change what you're getting, you got to change what you're doing. If you want to change what you're doing, well, you got to change what you believe. And if you want to change what you believe, well, then you have to get new information. And that was his point on reading. That's where the new information is at. And I wish he would have taken it a step further, because that's also the power of events. Where can you get new information? At events, assuming you're plugged in and paying attention. So again, if you want to change what you're getting, you got to change what you're doing. If you want to change what you're doing, you got to change what you believe. If you want to change what you believe, you got to get new information. So you can get that through reading books. You can get it through informational, solid podcasts. You can get it from events, meeting new people, hearing new perspectives come from stage. And those are the sacred 6. And after reading those, you can, if you saw my live video, you can probably understand that live a little bit more now, right? So that was my recap of 8% Nation, man. Phenomenal event. I absolutely loved it. And I'm looking forward to next year. And just to plug it right now, like me and Joe have already committed that next year we're doing the suite again. So we're going to have another syndicate ticket package that will roll out for you guys at some point in the not too distant future. Just got to wait for Cody to put his new event together, announce it, and get it all rolling. But we will have a suite again. We will probably have a private party of some form again. Whether or not we'll have a private chef, I don't know. We'll have to find out what all the details are. But I'm going to tell you right now that if you enjoyed this last week hanging out with us in that suite, I mean, we had a suite, we had floor seats too, so that we could get down on the floor if we wanted to. And then obviously we had a fat Airbnb for some of our team. And then we threw that nice little party afterwards. So it was a fantastic time. And I really appreciate every single one of you that came out and enjoyed it with us. So moving along, I want to talk about the 8 relationships a little bit. I've talked about this before. Joe and I brushed up on it a little bit in our breakout that we did. And you may or may not remember these. If this is brand new to you, then please stick around, because this is good stuff. Because I believe that insurance is a relationship business, and I think most of you believe that as well, right? And what are those 8 relationships? Well, when we first come into insurance, we're generally recruited into insurance. Very few people, except my buddy Joe Campert, have ever woken up and been like, man, I can't wait to go be an insurance agent today. Right? Most of us we find our way to insurance through a recruiting ad, or maybe it's a warm market, a friend, right, that says, hey, you should go check out this opportunity. And generally, that person often becomes your upline. And that's the first relationship that we're usually introduced to when it comes to the insurance world. That upline is there to be a mentor to us, right? That upline is there to train us, teach us the business, teach us a process. Sometimes maybe it's the wrong upline that brings us in. I got into the business through the wrong upline. Wrong for me. There were other guys being successful. Wasn't the upline's fault. It was my fault. But it just wasn't the right upline for me. It wasn't the right match. That is an extremely important relationship, because it's the foundation for everything you're ever going to do in insurance. And depending on your career and your growth, you may work through multiple uplines as you grow. You may work with multiple uplines at a time if you're an independent agent, and maybe you got some contract with this broker over here, some contracts with that broker over there, whatever it may be. But you have a responsibility in this relationship too. Relationships aren't one-sided. right? It's a connection between two entities is the definition of a relationship. You have a responsibility too. Your responsibility is to pay attention, ask questions, follow their process. Because the fact is, if agent A can be successful with this upline or broker, well, then you can too. So it's not always the upline's fault. Sometimes it's your fault that maybe you're not being successful. So while they have a huge responsibility to take care of you, right, and mentor you and train you and guide you and lead you, you have a responsibility to listen, to put in the effort, to put in the work, and to follow the process. That's level one. Next thing that happens is they introduce you to the state. They make you go get an insurance license, right? And then you develop a relationship with the state. And the state's there to manage the license, right? They set all the parameters. Here's what the fees are to have a license in the state. Here's the guidelines, the code of ethics that you got to follow. You got to do CE, continuing education, every 2 years. Here's the number of hours you have to do every 2 years. All of those things. And if you don't follow the rules, well, they'll just take your license, man. They don't care. This is one of the coldest relationships in all 8. This is absolutely the coldest one because the state's not there to make exceptions for you. The state's not there to accept your crybaby excuses. This is a cold-hearted relationship. They're going to set the rules, and you got to follow the rules. The closest they're going to get to exception is a fine or a penalty, right? If maybe you miss a CE credit and you have to pay a fine for the number of hours that you missed. Or maybe you forgot to renew your license on time, so they give you a little bit of grace to get it done. But other than that, nope. If it goes too long, they'll make you go back to the test, do all the crap again, fill out a new application, probably to get fingerprinted again, all that garbage. They set the standards. Next level is your carriers. Because as you're coming through this process, right, you establish an upline, they introduce you to the state, they get you licensed, you have that level relationship, and then they make you fill out some contracts so that you actually have some product to sell. Because otherwise, you're just a guy with a license. So you fill out all these different contracts, and now you have a ton of relationships with, especially if you're independent. Like if you're maybe a captive agent or you're working with an insurance carrier or for an insurance carrier, right? Then maybe you just have one relationship with that carrier, and that makes it a little simpler. But in a lot of ways, there's multiple relationships that exist within a carrier. There's a commissions department. There's a new business department, underwriting department. There's your actual sales rep or sales manager, contracting, licensing, right? There's all these other individual people within some of these carriers that you interface with. And those are the little mini relationships that exist within that carrier. And as good as these carriers are at what they do, you have to understand that insurance is a multi-trillion-dollar business. The volume of business that we shove through these carriers, law of numbers says that something will happen every once in a while. Maybe an application falls through the cracks. Maybe a commission doesn't get paid properly. Maybe they forget to pay you commissions completely on that app until you catch it. There's a number of things that can happen that are mistakes. And when those carriers make mistakes, or maybe when you make a mistake on an application and you have to go back and do some amendments to get it fixed, how you handle that process is ultimately going to determine how good your relationship is with that insurance carrier. I've seen agents get terminated just because they're unprofessional when they deal with that insurance carrier. And the carrier, they may not be as cold as the state, but they're not there to make a whole bunch of exceptions for you either. You break the rules, especially if you break them repetitively, they're just going to take your contract away from you. It wasn't too long ago. It was quite a while back, but I was working with a producer who was a major Medicare supplement producer. The guy wrote hundreds upon hundreds of apps every year. And he was working with an insurance carrier one day, and there was a mistake that happened, and he wasn't happy with the way they were handling it. And well, he called him up and gave him a mouthload of abusive language and just laid into him about it. I mean, screaming at the reps, went from one to the next one as it got escalated. He's telling them, F you and F this, and I can't believe this bullshit is going on and blah, blah, blah. Well, next thing you know, after he hangs up with them, I get a phone call. And they call me and they're like, Merwin, what's with your boy? Dude, your boy is unhinged. He is out of control. I need you to tell him that either A, to quit calling us, Or B, the next time he calls us, if he talks like that, we're going to terminate him. And not only are we going to terminate him, we're going to terminate him for cause, which means we get to keep all of his renewals to boot. Thankfully, I was able to step in and give that guy some coaching and just tell him, bro, you can't talk like that to these people because they will terminate you. And then I don't get to earn any overrides. And well, that kind of sucks. But that's the facts, right? So you got to take care of your carriers, give them the type of business they want, treat them professionally, and take care of that relationship. Now, the fourth level in the 8 insurance relationships is the obvious one, customers, right? If we don't have any customers, we're not making money. Pretty obvious. And we have to learn to take care of our customers. Walt Disney told us that to do what we do so well that your customers come back again and again and again, and they bring their friends and family with them. And that's a fact. I know there's some of you out there that you're like, man, we've got great customer service. We send them thank you cards. We call them on their birthday. We call them for Thanksgiving, Christmas, whatever. We're engaged. We look after them. You know, if you're in the Medicare space, you check in with your client. You're like, hey, how you doing? How's that plan working out for you? You got any upcoming doctor's appointments I can help you with? You got any friends I can help? You got any family members I can help? If you build a good relationship with those customers, and I know agents that throw big dinner parties for their local clients, Customer Appreciation Day. Enrique Sandoval up in Chicago does that. Rents a huge room, caters it, entertainment, the whole bit. I mean, that's taking care of your customers. Those people aren't leaving him. They're loyal. They love him. And they're going to bring their friends and family with them, right? Take care of your customers. They'll take care of you. Now, those first 4 that I just went through, right? Your upline, your state, your carriers, and your customers. Those 4 are the foundation. You're not an insurance agent if you don't have those 4, in my opinion. Right? Because you gotta have an upline that you work with where you can get product from. You got to be licensed with the state to even be an insurance agent. You got to have some contracts, some product to sell, and you got to have some customers. That's the basic level. If you're not doing those things, you're not an agent. You're not making money in the insurance game. You're just a guy sitting there with their license and an appointment list. Wow, look at all these carriers I could be selling for if only I knew how to go out and sell. But there's 4 more. I said 5. There's 4 more that'll take you a little bit further. And this is where we start to move. And I'll tie this into the cash flow quadrant as we get to the end here. But the next level is vendors. And I know a lot of times when I say vendors, people's head immediately jumps to lead vendors. And yes, that's a vendor. But the vendor category of insurance relationships is anybody that you have to cut a check to as a cost of running your business. I'm renting a building here. I got to pay that dude rent. So I'm sending him a check. That's a vendor that I work with. And we learn to develop a relationship with that guy. We develop a relationship with him quick. Like Joe's already been over to his building coaching his real estate agents on stuff. He loves us, right? We have a problem in the building. We tell Jeff about it. Jeff takes care of it for us. It's fairly simple. He refers people to us, right? That's a great relationship, right? So it's anybody that you have to cut a check to. Could be your landlord, could be a lead vendor, could be your telephone provider, could be your CRMs that you might work with. Eric Fierro is a vendor that I work with. I get my go high level experience from him. And if I take good care of him, well, he takes good care of me, right? I refer other agents over to him, and he occasionally does some really nice stuff for me as well, helping me out on the back end with some extra little work that I need, whatever. Lead Concepts is a lead vendor that I work with. I have a phenomenal relationship with Chris Weir. I do business with him. He scratches my back. It's a great relationship. Could be your CPA, could be your attorney, could be the people you buy your work clothes from. If you're getting like professional clothing that have your logo and things like that. Take care of your vendors, and I promise you they'll take good care of you. Easy pro tip on getting a great relationship or greasing a great relationship with the vendors is when they do what they say they'll do, give them a 5-star review on Google. Refer another person to them, but especially a 5-star review. Not just when they go above and beyond, right? Now, let's just use a lead example for a second, right? I order a mail campaign for 8,000 cards or something, and it goes out, and I start getting my leads back. Well, they did what they said they're going to do. That's 5-star review that person. Don't just wait until they go above and beyond to do something for you, when they put a little extra gravy on your chicken fried steak, don't do that. When they deliver exactly what you asked for, that should be a 5-star review, in my opinion. And when you give them that 5-star review, especially if you do it a few times because you're doing work with them repetitively, and especially when they're maybe if you do a live video testimonial, that's an even better one. But when you refer people to them, guess what happens? How fast are they going to start answering your email next time you email them? How fast are they going to pick up the phone when you call? How fast are they going to return your call when you need service? If you're taking care of them and you're referring other people to them that help them grow their business, and you're putting 5-star reviews out there for them that help them grow their business, when you reach out for help, they're going to be majorly responsive. Guaranteed. Level 6 is your colleagues. These are all the people that you just met at 8% Nation, that you're networking with, that you're learning from. What a better group of people to spend your time with than the people that are in this industry having the same struggles that you are, having the same successes that you are. They're on a similar trajectory as you are. There's no other better group of people to spend a lot of your time with than the people that are in the industry. They don't have to be just the bubble of people that are in your group. It's good to get outside of your bubble every once in a while and meet other people that are working with other hierarchies, working with other product lines, etc. You can learn from them. This level is where you find camaraderie. It's where you find encouragement. It's where you find leadership. It's where you find some attaboys. And it's where you start to get into level 7, which is one of my favorites, and that's strategic partnerships. A strategic partnership is a partnership with two people who generally work with the same customer or client avatar, but in non-conflicting means. So think of a property casualty agent that sells a lot of home insurance. Who's a good strategic partnership for him? Mortgage lenders. Great one. Real estate agents, another good one, right? Because they're both working in that same customer path, that same area, but on non-conflicting products. Think of a Medicare agent, right? He's working within Medicare. When do people get Medicare? Well, they get it when they get into retirement. Well, what about talking to a retirement planner, financial planner, long-term care guy, Edward Jones guy? Most of those guys don't want to touch Medicare because it's difficult, it's tedious, and for as far as they're concerned in their brain, it doesn't pay enough. Now, a lot of us that are in the Medicare space, we know better than that. But I'm okay with Edward Jones thinking Medicare doesn't pay well and let him refer me his Medicare clients because they're asking him about it. They're coming in with their IRA and their 401k and all their stuff. And they're like, look, here's what we got. How can you help us turn this into a long-term retirement plan for us? And then they're like, oh, by the way, do you do Medicare? And he's like, no, I don't. Hopefully he's got someone to refer them to. And hopefully that's you. So are you building strategic partnerships? Not just these are referral partnerships, provider relationships. This is real hot in the ACA and Medicare space as well. Are you meeting providers in the space to find out what kind of client they need that you can refer to them, and then they can refer back to you? Joe and I have a strategic partnership. It's a little different one, right? Joe does property and casualty insurance. I do Medicare, life, and health. I can't even spell P&C. I don't want to, right? Now, we can refer each other people, which we've done, but we also share this building that's a strategic partnership. It allows us to have more building space at a lower price. And then also we have our Facebook group that we run together. We have a few other elements that allow us to cross over. And we do have a media business now together that we're running and earning some profit on. It's how we were able to throw you guys that nice little party this weekend. So there's all kinds of strategic partnerships, and those partnerships are developed through those first 6 levels. As you go through this and you find people that you can work with, you can develop strategic partnerships. And that's when your business really starts to elevate. And then the final level is downline. This is when duplication starts to occur. Everything, if you're professional and you're successful at what you do and you've learned to master some of these first relationship levels, then it's only natural that you should not be selfish and you should start sharing that opportunity with other people. And that is when you start building a downline, when you start duplicating yourself, and now you can start really scaling something, scaling the process that you've built and that you've mastered, and you can mentor and tutor someone yourself. And this whole level of 8 relationships flips and the cycle starts back over. Now you're the upline and you're bringing someone through these 8 relationships and helping them develop and grow. And then it goes over it again and again and again and again and again. And a real quick pro tip on downline, dude, don't refer to them as your downline. That's unprofessional and it's demeaning. I'm only using it here as a technical generic term to help us understand what we're talking about. But when you introduce your downline to other people in the industry, introduce them as your business partner, because that's truly what they are. They're your business partner, associate, whatever you want to call it. But don't call them your downline. They're going to look at that as demeaning to them. Yeah, this is Bob. He's my downline. I'm going to make a ton of money off of him. Don't do that. But those are the 8 relationships. Now I want to take these and I want to show them to you in a little different means real quick. Okay. You guys have probably seen this before. If you know what this is, drop it in the comments. I'll give y'all a second while I have another little sip of tea here. Nobody's commenting yet. This is the cash flow quadrant. I didn't invent this. This is old school stuff. Robert Kiyosaki, as far as I know, came out with this. At least that's the first person that I've seen it delivered from. If you don't know who Robert Kiyosaki is, he wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which was I think that was his very first book. And then his second book, which was kind of a sequel to Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And number one, if you haven't read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, get off your butt. Go get a copy. I don't care if it's the real book or the audio book. Get that book and read it. It's phenomenal. And then his second book, which I believe was a sequel to Rich Dad, Poor Dad, was this book called the Cash Flow Quadrant. And it explains how money moves in different areas. Now, if anybody know what the E stands for, pretty easy one. E is employee, right? And how does money work how does money move if you're an employee? You work for someone else, right? And then when you get your check, well, Uncle Sam gets paid first, and then you get paid, right? That check first goes to Uncle Sam, and he gets to take his money out of it. And then you get what's left over. You have almost no major tax advantages at all. You're told what to do, when to do it, how to do it. And unfortunately, Uncle Sam gets paid before you do, and you get the pithings that are left over. That's an employee. Next level is the S, that's self-employed. This is where the majority of insurance agents live, right? These are your 1099 hustlers. Now we get some tax advantages, and now we can work when we say we're going to work. We're going to work where we're going to work. We're going to work with whom and with what products we want to work with, right? We get to make a lot of decisions here. And then we get paid first, and then we get to give Uncle Sam what's left over, right? We can get paid first, we can spend money, and then we give Uncle Sam what's left. And if we're smart with how we spend our money, hopefully Uncle Sam's not getting a whole lot from us. And don't get me wrong, I got nothing wrong with paying taxes. I like good roads. I like good schools. I like good public service departments. But at the same token, sometimes they're taking a little too much. Let's be honest. So they wrote these tax laws for us to take advantage of properly if we know how to. And the self-employed space is the first time we get a chance to take advantage of those. So again, in the self-employed, I'm the one making the decisions. I'm doing the work. And I get to give I get paid first, and then I get to give Uncle Sam what's left over. Now, there's an inherent problem with self-employed that if you haven't ever figured this out, in a lot of cases, when you quit working, you quit making money. Now, this isn't perfectly true in insurance, because you can work in insurance as just a straight 1099 hustler, as an individual sole proprietor, and build a renewal stream. However, in a lot of cases, if you pass, that renewal stream is going to die as well. And that's where moving on to the B quadrant is a little more advantageous. B is the business owner. In the insurance world, we would call this an insurance agency, right? This is when you're no longer writing your W-9 as a sole proprietor individual. Now you're writing as an LLC or an S Corp or a C Corp or whatever, right? Now we're starting to look into areas where we're operating as a business owner, or whether we are active in the business that given day, money is still happening, profit is still coming in, production is still churning. Whereas when, again, go back to the self-employed side, when we quit selling as a self-employed person, we're not growing any more profit. We might still get renewals because we are in the insurance space, but we're not generating new business or new profit. Business owner's different there. Me as the business owner, I can go play golf, or I can go take a vacation with my family, or I can spend time doing something away from the business, but the business is still operating. The business is still generating profit and revenue. We get a lot more tax advantages as a business owner. And same thing, the business gets paid first. We pay our obligations and our taxes and ourselves, or we pay our obligations and ourselves first, and then Uncle Sam gets what's left over. And we get a lot of tax advantages. One of the biggest important pieces of the business owner is succession planning. If you remember on the S quadrant, when I said in some cases, even though maybe we're in a renewal-based business and we quit selling, we don't necessarily quit making money because we have a renewal stream coming in. But when you die, when you pass, that renewal stream is not as easily handed off to your next generation. And that's why becoming an insurance agency, even if you're just one dude, even if you're just one guy out there, you truthfully should set yourself up as a corp. Because if you have a family that you want to leave behind some legacy to, that way you can take that renewal stream, that profit that you've engineered, and you can pass it off to somebody. You can also wrap it up in a pretty bow and sell it. So those are some of the advantages of a business owner. Succession planning comes into play. The last quadrant is investor. And this is now where your money starts working for you, right? Now I'm able to take the money I earn as a business owner, and I'm able to put it somewhere where it starts working for me. In the insurance world, we might call that acquisitions. Now I'm buying a business, or I'm investing in another insurance agency, and the money that I spent or put in play, now it's earning money for me. There's a whole bunch of other ways that you can earn money as an investor, and I'm certainly not an investment expert, and I'm not here to give you investment advice, but you can put it in stocks, you can put it in bonds, you can put it in art that might appreciate. You can put it in real estate, probably one of the smarter places to put it. I had a really deep conversation with James Whitley, who's a good friend of mine. If you don't know James Whitley, he's out of Vero Beach, Florida, runs Senior Life Solutions, if I remember correct, SLS, and I may have that a little off. Maybe it's Senior Life Sales, I forget. But runs a huge final expense and life insurance operation. And that's not all he does. The money that he makes as a business owner, he's putting it into real estate. And he's really smart with it. He knows how to use other people's money to get him real estate. He's super savvy. And if you're someone that's looking to put some money in real estate, that is one of the top people that I would ever recommend you chat with about it. Justin Brock, another good friend of mine, does the same thing. Cody Askins does the same thing. They've created a business that makes money whether they are involved in it today or not. And they're using the money that they make to invest it in bigger things. They're buying insurance agencies. They're buying real estate. They're buying other businesses. And now that money that they've invested is working for them and earning them, well, more money. So understanding all of that, how does the 8 relationships fit into that? Well, it's pretty simple. The first 4 tend to fall on the left side of the game. Upline, state, carriers, customers, right? When I get recruited into insurance, I might get recruited by an insurance company where I become their employee. I might get recruited by an insurance agency where I become their employee, and they're going to help walk me through these. I may also come in where maybe I'm recruited through an independent agency that's going to set me up as a 1099, and they're going to help me develop these first 4 relationships. But as I start to move from the first 4 relationships into the second 4, I start to think a little more like a business owner, and then maybe even become a business owner and even investor. Now, granted, I can certainly sit on this left side of the page. I can be an employee and I can be a self-employed person, and I can work with vendors. I can network with my colleagues. I can probably develop strategic partnerships, and I can even be a 1099 self-employed hustler and build a downline. But you're beginning to think like a business owner. I'm starting to work with vendors and develop business relationships where now I'm having expenses that I can write off against my taxes so that, again, I get paid first. Uncle Sam gets what's left over. And if I'm truly thinking like a business owner, I'm working with business owner colleagues that are helping advance me through that direction. They're starting to give me ideas on how I can grow in that B and even move to the I quadrant. Strategic partnerships are definitely business owner level stuff. Because now I'm starting to think, how can I collaborate with other people that I can grow something much bigger than just being a 1099 hustler in the S quadrant? And when I'm building a downline, again, now I'm really building a business. Even as a 1099 hustler, if I'm building a downline, I'm building a business, truthfully. Because now if I have a good downline group, if I have a hierarchy that I've built, even if I'm just a self-employed individual on paper, I still have developed a business, because now all these are going out there writing business and I'm receiving overrides while I'm playing golf, or while I'm traveling with my family, or while I'm doing this or that, right? So those first four are definitely on the left side. The next four is when you start to gravitate on that final side. Fairly simple stuff, man. If you guys have any questions on this, if you have any comments on it, put them in the comment bar. I wanted to try to get this in under an hour, which it looks like we just came in. And as always, I appreciate you guys coming in and hanging out with me and chatting with me. So I hope that kind of helps you understand a little bit better about the 8 relationships. I hope if any of you out there have never seen the cash flow quadrant, I hope this opens up your eyes a little bit. And again, I'll just go back and say it one more time. If you haven't ever seen the cash flow quadrant, and even if you have, man, go back and read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Go get his second book, Cash Flow Quadrant. You're going to learn a lot about how money works. You're going to learn a lot about how investments work, how running a business works. You're going to start to understand some of the falsehoods that are out there in the business world, the things that people are saying to us. They're trying to trick us out of our money and so forth. So excellent books. Definitely recommend you go read them. And yes, I appreciate that you just came in, but you can watch this later, because all of the videos that we've ever done, every Tuesday training I've ever done, every winning on Wednesday that Joe and I have ever done, every Monday mindset that Luke Akery's ever done, all of these videos are always recorded, just like it says in the banner on the bottom, and they always live in the group. All you got to do is go into the Insurance Syndicate, go to the videos tab, and you can scroll through all of our videos. Secondarily, they get pushed out to YouTube. So if you don't like to watch them on YouTube, or if you don't like to watch them in the group, just go to YouTube. It's pretty simple. Go to Insurance Syndicate on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, and you'll find them. In fact, I'll just show it to you just because I can. Real quick, just going to share this with y'all real fast. Right? So there's our YouTube channel. See that big red subscribe button? That's all you got to do is hit that little button. Bing! And now you're going to get notified, and all of our videos are on here. We have shorts. We have them all broken down into playlists, so you can watch all the Monday mindsets. You can see all my Tuesday trainings, at least most of them. I think we might be a little behind on getting these to YouTube, but we'll get them done. Winning on Wednesdays, Tactical Thursdays, Friday Fuels, Saturday morning cartoons. They're all on here. We've only got 264 subscribers. We need some more. If you're not subscribed, do us a solid, man. Jump on there and subscribe real quick. But yes, all these videos are always recorded. They will always live in the group. And then, of course, they always get pushed to YouTube. You can go subscribe and watch them there. So thank you all for the comments. Thank you all for coming and hanging out with me. I truly appreciate it. I love you guys. And, well, we'll see you next week on Tuesday Training. Take it easy.